This video is going to show you how to make splints. The software we use is called D3 Splint. Um, we'll open that in a second. We need a couple scans in order to use this. So the way I get scans onto the computer is you just open up my iTero like we do in the ops, find the patient that we're making a splint for, find the scan that we're making the splint off of, and just hit export. It's going to pop up this. So you want to select open shell, data format, file per arch. Arch is oriented in occlusion, and then STL is fine. And then you just hit export. It's gonna give you, sometimes it gives you like a little box up here and just says that it's preparing it. Eventually it'll give you this little folder down here, little zip folder. After we have that, this pops up, and so this is the zip folder. Obviously you have to unzip it, so you just hit extract all. It's going to ask you where to put it. I'm just going to make like a little folder on the desktop. So splints, and we're just going to save it here. Extract. So these are the two that we're going to use. So once we have those, we open up D3 Splint, and it kind of gives you this little splash page with this goofy thing. Just click anywhere other than that, and it opens it up. And this is kind of what the basic thing looks like. So to get going, you're going to come over here to this side, and pretty much every single splint you're going to do almost identically. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to hit not for clinical use. Then you're going to click auto background. You're going to pick what jaw and what type of splint we're going to make. So if it's for me, Adam, 98% of the time you're going to do it for the maxilla, and it's most of the time going to be a flat plane. So once you have that set, then you hit import STL models, and it's going to give you this. So then you just get to pick where those files are. So ours is on desktop, it's in splints, and then we have both of these. So I want both of them to go into the program. So I click one, I hold the shift key, and then I click the other one, and that selects both. And then I hit import STL. It's going to think for a second, and then we have this going on. So obviously these are our jaws registered with the bite that we took during the scan. Next thing we're going to do now that we have this is we're going to come over here and we're going to hit set splint model. You're going to hit this, and then you're going to pick whichever one you picked here. So we're going to pick the maxilla. That's now our splint model. This is fine. Just leave it at the defaults. I always click use print raft. This doesn't say print, but print raft. Click that. And then you're going to come down and hit set opposing, and then click the other arch. Next thing you're going to do is hit set landmarks. And so all this is doing is it's just trying to figure out where the plane of occlusion is and how this upper jaw is set. So the first thing you're going to do, click right molar. So I always just click the palatal cusp of the right first molar, click left molar, same thing over here, click that guy, click incisal edge, click there, and then click midline, right at the midline. And so you can see that just kind of gives you like an occlusal plane, kind of tells you where the front and the back is. And once you have these, then you just hit finish. So that's all good. Then you get this articulator. You can do lots of fancy things with this. You don't really have to. The first thing I always do is I just hit check clearance. Like a lot of times we're taking the scan with the patient biting, and so there is 0 clearance. So we obviously need a little bit of clearance for the splint to go in there. So you hit check clearance. Usually I do about 1.5, and it'll give us a color ramp. You just hit OK. So yeah, obviously this is an issue. Everything is touching. That doesn't work. So what we do, you go to change pin setting, and this is going to open the bite. So if I just hit OK here, it's going to open at 0.5 millimeters at the front. So it's just it opens this little pin by 0.5 millimeters. So you can see that didn't really do anything. So I'm just going to increase this like crazy. You can also click it and type it if you want. Increase it by 2. So that's better. we still see that we got some stuff going on, right? So it kind of saves your last response. So I just hit 2 again. We're really close, almost there. You don't want to go overboard because obviously you don't want to have like a massively thick splint. So I'm not going to do 2 again because I probably don't need it. We'll hit 1 again, just see what we got. Still a little bit at the back. Sometimes that's okay, but I'm going to hit it 1 more time just to kind of show you something. So that's okay. That's probably perfect. But say I went too far. So, okay, now we have nothing there, right? And so maybe I'm 0.9 too open. So what you're going to do to close it again is you just go into the negatives. Perfect. A little bit there. That's fine. And that's not too thick once we're good. So once you have that, then you hit survey model. So this is literally just determining the path of insertion. So it's going to kind of figure out undercuts and stuff from this view. Software is pretty good at just kind of guessing at this. So, say if it was super off, you'd like rotate it, right? We don't need to. Like this is really solid right here. So I hit capture view and then I just hit commit and we're good to go. Next thing, it's going to make you save just so you don't lose everything. So I'm just going to save it in the same spot. You'll have a folder for this patient in here probably. Doesn't really matter. Just save it as untitled. Hit refractory model. These default numbers are perfect. Don't change them. It's great for the material we're using. Just hit OK. And it's going to go in and it's going to block out undercuts and kind of make the jaw that we're making a splint for green and like a cast. Yeah, just like that. So it's blocked out all the undercuts using the parameters that we set before. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to mark the splint outline. So now we just take this. We can play around with this a little bit. I usually do pretty much the same thing for everybody. So I usually start lateral incisor here and I kind of start halfway down the tooth because we don't want it. I find people get upset if it covers the whole tooth in the front. So I usually just cover the half here, bring it across, just click. One thing, so if they have a space between their front teeth, sometimes it's a little bit goofy because this won't just automatically track across. It'll get lost almost. And so then you have to, instead of just clicking in the middle, you have to click here and then bring it down to the gums and then just trace it across. It'll figure it out, and when it prints, everything is totally fine. So you just trace this across. When I get to the canine, usually I kind of ramp up along the gum line and then I just trace along the gum line. It's not a huge deal. At the back, I usually start ramping up the tooth a little bit and then I just go below the distal marginal ridge here. Sometimes if they have wisdom teeth, you don't really even have to include them. Typically I'll include, like, say this is the wisdom tooth, I'll include like this much just so that it's involved in the splint so that you don't get the tooth erupting over time. I don't think it would, but just I tend to do that. So we're here and then I just trace it along and then again I just go right along the gum line here. You can kind of see, like, based on the undercuts, it'll bring the dot off the tooth a little bit, just depending where you are. Bring this across. Obviously, the mouse wheel zooms you out. I click the middle, click the middle mouse wheel just to kind of rotate stuff, and then to move things, hold the shift key and press the mouse wheel. Okay, just continuing on. Same thing here. Sometimes it gives you this little red thing, and it's just saying that it doesn't like the path. A lot of times it'll just go in and add more points and figure it out on its own. If it doesn't, you can like click one of these and add a point in between, just to help it figure out where it wants to go. Like this thing, watch, yeah, and then it just sorts it out. Bringing it across. And then when you get to the end, it gives you this little green line. And that just finishes it basically. So once you have the splint outline, you're good to go. You hit next. Okay, then it's going to give us the refractory die again, or the refractory cast. Pick interior region of splint. Use a little eyedropper. It gives you a color. Seems to be a different color every time, which is kind of nice. and then you hit next. Confirm that trimming was successful. Sometimes if something went wrong, it'll like color the whole cast red, and sometimes that just means that you know, the outline wasn't done properly or there's a hole somewhere. But here we're all good, so we just hit next again. Mark curves. So this is just telling us where the occlusion is basically. So it's kind of like you can think of it as like the outer and inner limits of the splint. So I'm going to start mark maxillary, and I literally just do the buccal cusps of the maxillary teeth and bring it around, incisal edges. It's not super important. Sometimes if you have somebody with a wonky bite, you got to play around with it a little bit. So we're good there. And then I'll go mark mandibular. This one I do a little bit differently because typically the palatal cusp lands about here, but sometimes, again, people's bites are a bit goofy. So I kind of start in the middle of their lingual cusps. And then I just draw it along. Here I kind of get a little bit more towards the center. I click this to start going around the arch again. And again, I'm really just kind of following the arch. And so if you imagine, that's kind of what the splint is going to look like. So hit commit, and then it gives you this wonky thing. So you can see, because we selected auto background, this happens automatically, which is nice. If you don't select the auto background thing, it's kind of a mess and it doesn't do this. So now that we have the shell, this is the splint shell, the minimum thickness is already picked, and then generate functional movements is like going through excursions and stuff. Now we hit splint wax rim. This is always fine, doesn't matter. And it gives you this little thing. You can look at it really quick, just kind of, yeah, it looks good. And then fuse rim to shell, and it's going to fuse it to what we already had. At this point, typically what I do, I don't really worry about remesh or resmooth, but I'll hit block out large concavities, and it just kind of goes in, smooths it out a little bit. I'll hit remesh smooth just to kind of show you. Sure. Yeah, it just smooths it out a little bit. Nothing crazy. Sometimes for whatever reason, it'll open the sculpt tool. I like never use it, but you could theoretically go in here and kind of manually adjust everything if you wanted. If it pops up, just hit close sculpt. The next thing to do is under occlusion tools, we'll mark the posterior contacts. So here, I just mark cusp tips, basically. You can drag them, obviously, if you kind of goof up. Doesn't really matter what order you do this in. It just kind of starts to give the software an idea of where this person's going to be biting, basically. Okay, so you see pretty reasonable. We hit next. Yeah, see, so the sculpt thing opened up here. I hit commit, and now we're good to go. So yeah, that always kind of goofs everything up a little bit. You can hit subtract posterior plane, and all that did is those occlusion spots that I just put on the lower jaw, it just removed those from the splint. So now we're going to hit subtract functional surfaces, and it just took those dynamic movements that we had from before and removed those from the splint. So sometimes you'll see like giant ramps taken away from the front here. So that's pretty much it. The only thing that we're gonna do to make this thing easier to print so that we don't need a bunch of supports and stuff, I'm gonna come to the front of the splint, right where it's almost like a 90-degree here. And I'm gonna click it, and it moves that little cursor there. And then I'm gonna hit add print raft. This is fine. You just hit OK, and it gives you this. So this is just something that helps us print the splint. So we add it on there. I'm not too fussy about where it goes, as long as you just imagine like you're gonna have to trim this off. So as long as it's not too goofy. Then I hit join print raft. Kind of take a peek, make sure it looks okay. Sometimes I'll come in here too and I'll just do this again. And it'll actually fill that in a bit so that it's not, because it would have had issues printing that. You don't have to do this. Sometimes it just kind of goofs it up, but I just saw that there was a big space here, so I did that. If you had, you can come down here. Sometimes you can add like a label. Say you were printing like 8 of these at once or something, and they all had like very similar teeth. You could do that just to like add stuff on there. So you just type this, type the patient's name or the initials or whatever, stencil text label, and then you can actually just add it on there. I don't want to do it here because I've kind of made a weird shape here. So last thing that we do, if you look here, like this is all goofy, right? So it basically hasn't subtracted the teeth from this splint. And so we have to come in and hit finalize the splint to remove that so that it fits on the teeth. There's 2 of these, doesn't really matter. B mesh is fine, you hit OK, and it actually removes the teeth. So now this is the finalized splint. Typically what I do at this point, I'll hold Control S and then it pulls this up and then you just hit save and then it's going to save this file just in case you want to mess around with it. But now you're just going to come here, export Splint STL. We're in the same folder. Obviously it's going to be the patient one, not just splints. And we'll do, typically you write like the patient initials, and I usually go MFP for maxillary flat plane, but just some indication of what jaw it is and then what kind of splint it is. And then you hit export. And then that is it. Now that we're good with this, you just hit close. Good to go.